shot. You still got a shot at reaching the 61.8 fib or 78.6 Fibonacci if you can rebound and flip things back to bullish. You've got signals turning bearish. A couple of them are still hanging in there. A couple of the swing trend signals. Here we saw the bars turn back to bearish. We got this reversal signal right after our peak right there. It's not a major top signal here. Still have a shot at going higher. Doesn't have to be a major top. Again, the major top came back over here, and back over here in July. This is what happened with the Fed the last time. We got the Fed meeting right here. We topped the very next day, and we sold off. We came back, we tested that low, and then we got a bullish signal, and we rallied back up. That bullish divergence on the 4-hour chart, it was confirmed by a lot of my signals. Rallied back up. Either turning here, and this is the sell signal that would take us lower. If you can get one more push up, you got a shot at going into the golden pocket. That's becoming less likely, but I'm telling you, it's still possible because we still have some bullish signals. So we'll be watching the golden pocket, 117,000 to 121,000. No guarantee we do that, but you do have, again, bearish signals turning back to bearish. Well, that might be all she wrote. Bitcoin got a major topping signal in the weekly time frame. Bars flipped back to bearish. Again, bottomed out just above our 50-week moving average over here. We bottomed out just below it. I was thinking that would happen again. If we finish wave 2 or go higher and finish wave 2 at the golden pocket, you come back, you take out your 50-week moving average, you're going to be confirming bear market. I think you're on your way back down to test the April low over here. And I think, again, you've got this massive head and shoulders pattern, as I've talked about here. And I think down to that 74,000 area, you're dropping 42%. I did get a signal with Powell here, a reversal signal. Here, bars have turned back to bearish. Again, beautiful topping signal, beautiful bottoming signal. Here, just telling us it's over. Just a short-term pullback for one more push higher. You've got Trump and Xi Jinping meeting in South Korea, and I don't know what time it's for. It's the early morning in South Korea right now as Bitcoin's about to close out the session for Wednesday. And again, as I posted on social media today, as I said earlier in the week, again, markets could be disappointed if there's not a deal. And again, I think the United States should hold out for a better deal. All the details, but we do know a few. And again, I think there might get some kind of agreement, but then ongoing negotiations. This may not be finalized or finished by any means. This could be disappointed. Powell just disappointed markets today. Powell said it's not a foregone conclusion that we're going to get a December cut. Now, we're still going to get a cut, and you're going to get jumbo cuts by January. Maybe late December, but probably by January, jumbo cuts, moving into recession, and that's why Bitcoin has already peaked. I heard they believe, they announced, Powell announced the end of quantitative tightening to end December 1st today at this meeting, which I predicted at the last meeting was going to happen at this meeting, and I was right. But the herd believes, the rate cuts are bullish, they're bearish. The last time we sold off, we're selling off right now. I warned you about this. The previous 3 Fed meetings, we have seen Bitcoin sell off 7 to 8% or so. Secondly, believes, quantitative tightening is ending, so that means quantitative easing is starting. That's not what's happening, but that's what, these people think. They're delusional and obsessed with Fed stimulus. They believe quantitative easing is now starting, and it's not. It's going to come later in the recession, and Bitcoin is going to be down by over 50% before it starts. Jumbo cuts, Bitcoin's going to drop 42% to 52%, and then we're going to get jumbo cuts, and then the Fed will do more cuts, and then later on, deeper into the recession, they'll go back to quantitative easing. It's not going to happen immediately. Down the road, another banking crisis. That's going to be the black swan later. Bitcoin's already topped. Good chance the stock market top today with the Fed. Major resistance. Powell said it's not a foregone conclusion, and there's division at the Fed as to whether they're going to go forward cutting in December. Market sell off. It ended up creating a hanging man candlestick on the S&P 500, but right now Bitcoin's selling off with this. Heard out there, they're telling us, here we go, we're going to get the rate cut, here we go, and we go in the other direction. I told you to be watching for a sell-off in the next 48 hours. So what's happening? Oh, the market's selling off in 48 hours. I gave you the levels. I've been through it over and over. Told you to be watching for a back test of this trend line. Warned you my last update. We're forming a bear flag. Told you this trend line down over here from the higher low in April and May there, pointing up in here, and the trend line from the April low. I told you we were going to back test these levels. We did. We got up through it. Initially, got a topping tail at the April low trend line right there, and we came back down, but then we rallied back up. And on Sunday, my signals, which are correct, turned back to bullish, and I told you then again we can get a bigger counter trend now and likely get the wave 2. I told you that if we turn down right there, you can dump down to the 2-week moving average and then get the bigger rally down to the 101, 102,000 area. We bottomed out at 103. We bottomed out at 103,000. I told you back up at the top, we were going down to the low 100,000 area. I was correct. Told you I thought, and I have a guts to tell you what I think. I thought we'd bottom out around 101 to 100,000 to 101,000. But I told you we had bottoming signals here. And again, I told you it could play out either way. I told you I thought it'd be a feeble rally if we go lower and then get the bigger rally. But I told you if I was wrong, we get the bigger rally right here. Now we got the bigger rally. But I did tell you we back test the trend line here. And again, we did it twice. We did it here, and then we came down, and we did it again. And that's given us a bigger rally. You're now likely moving down to take out this level of support, 103,000, and you're likely about to start crash wave 3. You got a good shot of turning off of this trend line right here. The risk is you still go up to the 61.8 Fibonacci. We fell just shy of that level. But again, you're likely going to get a massive Fed sell-off. Again, the Fed's not going to cut in December. They're not going to cut him. And again, we're going to get a quarter point cut out of the Fed. It's just being naive not to think that we're going to get a cut out of the Fed. We're moving into recession. Now, Powell doesn't believe that. Maybe he's pausing there, and he thinks that he's done his job and cutting, and now it's going to support the labor market. And again, I'm telling you, we're going to get negative numbers, and markets are going to freak out. But you probably have finished wave 1 and 2 here. If not, you still go up to that 61.8 Fibonacci. Turning off of the trend line, I predicted that would happen. Then we hit it once, hit it again, and my signals turned back to bullish to hit it again. I think this is the larger counter trend now, and I think it's wave 2. See the bear flag going into that trend line of resistance. Bring it up close here. You can see we have a bear flag going into that. I told you about the topping tail. I excluded that and the channel there. Let's bring it up close here so you can see it. And here it is. Here it is in the daily time frame up close. You can see, again, I've drawn a trend line from these lows. We're breaching it here. And close, you can see that. And the upper boundary here, I excluded that shadow. And I'm connecting this high to this high. And you've got a really nice looking bear flag pattern going into that level. Now we turned off of just under, we overthrew the 50% retracement of this decline, and you came to just under the 61.8 Fibonacci. We were just under it up here at 117,000. Now I told you that Bitcoin's famous for turning off of the 61.8 Fibonacci. Now again, we still, if we could try to recover, we still may try to go there, but right now we just opened moments ago the Thursday session, and Bitcoin is coming down here to the 200 period for a test, and it has officially broken the trend line here. We've done it with our log and linear scaling. This is the log scaling you're looking at right here, but we've broken the trend line. So again, it's less likely that we're going to make it to that 61.8 Fibonacci between the resistance zone of 117 to 120.21. I told you if we could get above the trend line, you could do it. Maybe get a topping tail or something there, but I told you the risk is that we turn down off of this trend line. Again, I called a top back over here. Told you at the top on April 6th, April 7th, and April 8th, right after the top, I told you I think that's the top. The week following that, 3 weeks and 2 days ago, Bitcoin peaked, and I've told you every single week, over and over, I believe Bitcoin is topped. I believe we're going down to confirm a bear market very soon. Predicted this rally. I told you could be the counter trend, or we can get a push lower and then get the bigger counter trend. I think it's probably done now, breaking this trend line. Bitcoin right now just closed at down. Whoops, sorry about that. Bitcoin just closed down 2.5%. Bitcoin is right now currently at 109,000. Well, this wasn't going to happen. Bitcoin got the topping tail at the trend line here. It got confirmed yesterday. We dropped back below the 50 period moving average, and now we get the follow through. So good chance you're not coming back up here. Good chance you've turned off of the trend line of resistance, which is what I told you originally, to be watching for a back test of the trend line. Warned of the risk of going up into the golden pocket here. That is less likely now, and it's likely that we're now going to go down and move to take out this low right here. Now, again, I looked on social media today, and again, I didn't post earlier today because I was to see what Powell had to say and how Bitcoin would react. I told you if Bitcoin had a positive move with the Fed, again, to be watching the golden pocket. We couldn't do it. We turned off of this trend line. But again, wave 2 is probably done now. Our bear flag continuation is now done. Breaking down from it, you're likely done. And we closed below the 200 period moving average, the black line right here. We got rejection off of the 50 and closed back below it here. Got above it and then closed back below it on the reversal bar. And then you confirmed it the very next day. You're reversing off the 50-week moving average, or the 50-day moving average. This is a daily. And again, we can connect those two lines now, the peak here and here, and you've got a potential channel, a larger channel. I had it drawn here from this low to this low. We didn't reach that upper boundary line for there, so now I can draw it from here to here, and we'll be watching, if we take out this low, we'll be watching this level. It might be that we have it more over in here from this low right here, but we'll be watching to see if a new falling price channel now develops with a lower high and a lower low to take out 103,000 and eventually take out the 100,000 and 98,000 horizontal support level. Again, talking about Bitcoin back testing and or going up to the Fibonacci retracements here and posting on social media, just have people just laughing and saying, how could anybody be so stupid to think Bitcoin's going to go down or Bitcoin is topped? 4-year cycle has likely ended and Bitcoin likely topped on October 6th. As I said back at the top on October 6th and warned you, a boatload of sell signals on October 6th, 7th, and 8th back up at the top. And then we had the flash crash, the liquidation move. Moon Boys told us, oh, it's a breakout back up here. And then they told us this wasn't going to happen. And it did. We dropped nearly 18%. And then we've rallied back up. And now we're likely resuming the advance. We're turning back up. And I got people telling me, I don't understand. We're going to be going 250,000 and 200,000 by December. And again, probably by December or January, you're going to be down 42 to 52%. 42% is the 74,000 horizontal support. 52% is what we did the last Bitcoin top. You crashed 52% in about 10 and a half weeks. You're going to 60,000 to 74,000 area, crashed by 50%, 63,000. 2%, 60,000 or so. 74,000 horizontal support, you're looking at 42%. Just to kick off the bear market, you're going to probably, I predict Bitcoin's going to go down to at least 25,000. And my prediction is Bitcoin's going to go down to 11,000. Going to drop 91%. The bear markets for Bitcoin have been 78 to 93%. I think you're going to get a bear market of 91% on Bitcoin, and I am predicting that Bitcoin is going to drop down to 11,000. I think at least in the bear market 80% at 25,000. Oh, that's a horrible thing to say. That is why I have been banished from the Moon Boy cult permanently. Again, I was very bullish at 74,000 at the bottom in April. Called turns back and forth along the way, and again, when everybody was saying that there was no hope, called the very day of the bottom, just like I called the very day of the top back over here. Third, you always want to do the opposite. They're really bearish. They had lost all hope down at 74,000, down at the bottom at the April low. When I called the very day of the bottom on April 7th, I told you Bitcoin was going to go make new highs. Then here at the top at resistance, I saw evidence of a top, which I've talked about at great length and detail over the last 3.5 weeks now. I have talked about it in every video. I told you that, again, I made the bullish case, I made the bearish case, and I told you, hey, I think that Bitcoin is topped, and I think the 4-year cycle has come to a conclusion. I told you that at the top, and I've told you every video since then that I think that that is a top. We rally a little bit. Oh no, you can't be right. You can't be right. And all we do is get a rally to backtest a trend line. Moon Boys told us it's a breakout. I told you it was a fake out. I told you we were turning off major resistance. I told you we were about to crash down to the low 100,000 area. I was right. We got the liquidation move, and the Moon Boys were blindsided by the top. They were blindsided by the sell-off, which I was correct. We hit 103,000, 102 down here with the liquidation move on some exchanges. Here with Bitcoin's price history, it was about 105,000. Thing I've said, and then I called a bottom down here, told you didn't know if it'd be big or small, you never know. Told you if my signals turn back to bullish, you get a bigger rally right now. And that's why I think that this is the counter trend for wave 2. I think you're about to get crash wave 3. The fact that we closed below the lower boundary here, dropping 2.5%, I think increases the odds that you're probably not going to go back up to the golden pocket, that you came just shy of the 78 or the 61.8 Fibonacci there at 117,000. Everything I'm saying is being dismissed by the Moon Boys, dismissed by the herd. We broke the trend line, and I warned you at the bottom we were going to get a rally because of this bullish diversion setting. My signals later confirmed it, but again, I told you I didn't know if it'd be a feeble rally or more powerful rally, and I told you if my signals turn back to bullish, which they did, then you can get a more powerful rally and try to go to the golden pocket. And we've tried to, we failed. But we broke the trend line here, so it's more likely that the rally's finished. You may still, if you can get back above the trend line, you might still try to form a divergence right here. You don't have to, but you still may try. Scott, did you hear what I said? I said you still may try. Some signals are turning back to bearish. Others are not quite there yet. So again, if you try to get back above the trend line and back above the 50, you might try to do it and form a divergence. Divergences have marked the turns every single time. Because we closed below the lower boundary here, more likely this trend line has now completed. This trend line has now completed the upper boundary of the flag, the bear flag, rather than up here going up into this level. And we're getting past that now with the price action. So I think it's more likely, rather up here at the 61.8 Fibonacci, that we probably have seen a peak right here. But if you can get back above the trend line, back above the 50, you got a shot at still reaching the 61.8 Fibonacci at 117,000. So do pay attention to that level if we try to form a divergence here. You don't always form a divergence, but a lot of times you do. It's worth paying attention to. You still don't want to rule out the possibility of a move to the 61.8 Fibonacci, even though we fell short of that level. If the move is now done, then we have a 5-way push down, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 for wave 1, and we have an A, B, C for wave 2. We're in crash wave 3, so it's going to be pretty painful the next leg down. Once we take out 103,000, it's going to get really, really ugly. I'll leave this parallel blue line here parallel to these lows over here and see if we still attempt to reach the 61.8 Fibonacci, but as I've said, it's becoming less likely now, and it's more likely we've seen the peak here back testing the trend line from the April low there in the daily time frame. Here it is in the 4-hour time frame here. Again, I'm going to keep this trend line here in case we try to get back up here and still try to reach that 61.8 Fibonacci. Again, parallel boundary is intersecting with it pretty good right here with this perfectly parallel boundary. Not so much the upper boundary here, if we were to include the shadow, but the upper boundary here of this falling channel. So again, we'll see if we try to get back above it. But like I said, you're closing below this trend line, closing back below the 50 period in the daily, and losing the 200 and the 50 here, then again, we could have a peak right here, right now, again, for an ABC move. So again, if you're completing wave 1 and wave 2, the next is crash wave 3, and that means we're going to come back and take this level out. We might try to bounce, but again, we're in a post-Fed sell-off, a big post-Fed sell-off, bigger than the 2.5% we just had. Very well. The stock market began to crash. I think it's probably peaked today. I told you I was looking for a top in the stock market this week. Major resistance. Bitcoin already peaked at major resistance. Market usually peaks a couple weeks later. 3 weeks and 2 days ago, Bitcoin peaked. Now we got a possible peak in the stock market. Let me just show you this, and here it is on the 4-hour chart. Let me flip over here to the daily chart so it's a little bit easier to see. Bring this up. I'm going to keep my annotations on the chart over here because it's in the 4-hour time frame. But if we flip over to the daily chart, again, we're trying to bounce off that 200 period moving average. We're getting rejection off the 50. We're back testing the trend line here from the April low. I think you're headed there, and I think you're getting this massive head and shoulders pattern. As I keep saying over and over, I think you're coming down here. Now, if we do what we did back in 2021, you drop 50%, 52% in 2 months or so. If we peaked here in October, it could crash into December or January, and 52% takes you down to 63,000. This is 74,000. Or 60,000, pardon me. It takes you actually a little bit lower than this. This is 63,000. That's a 50% drop right there. And Bitcoin, to kick off the bear market, often get this dramatic drop. But it is what it's done in the past. Last bear market, you kicked it off with a 52% drop in 2.5 months. So I think you could probably drop into late December or on into January, and I think you've got a head and shoulders if you come back here to 74,000, or maybe it's lopsided. Maybe it's a slanted neckline. Bitcoin at the last top formed a head and shoulders top, and it was a slanted downward neckline. You took out this low. So I'm just telling you, again, people are in denial that there's risk here. And again, I think Bitcoin has topped, and I think it's about to drop 42%. 42% is to here, or you get a 50% drop, which is down here to 63%, or 52% like we did before, takes you down to 60,000. Bitcoin gets a 50% haircut. So I would be watching the 74,000 area, 42% drop. I'd be watching the 60 to 63,000 area. And if we're going to get crash wave 3, again, it may be the 5-leg push higher ends down 42% right here. And then we try to get the right shoulder at horizontal support. But you're at risk of still getting 50% drop in Bitcoin by December or January. You got people out there. Lee's predicting, and other people are predicting. I saw people predicting you're going to have Bitcoin 200,000 before the year ends. You're going to have Bitcoin 250,000. I've seen famous people and billionaires and Tom Lee and these people predicting this. The same people that were predicting the same stuff back at the last Bitcoin top. Last time Tom Lee predicted Bitcoin will reach 200,000 in December of 2021, it had already topped and it crashed by 78%. He predicted that at the very beginning of the bear market, just like he's doing right now. He's predicting this, we're going to be at 200 and 250,000 in the next 60, so many days, 63 days or whatever, by December 31st. Last time he predicted that, had already topped, began the bear market, started to crash, and it crashed down for the rest of the year down to 15,000. People tell me, you can't be right. Tom Lee's got to be right. Everybody says so. He's on TV. He's a perma bull. Never saw the last top. He's not going to see this top. He's a perma bull. I saw this bottom. I called a bottom here. And when I saw this top right here, I called a top right here. Unless I'm presented with evidence confirming a bear market, which I think we're about to do, signals in the weekly time frame turn back to bullish, and I start seeing evidence we clear resistance, I will turn back to bullish. I told you we could reach the Fibonacci extension levels, previous events, but right now we're turning off of the Fibonacci levels from the bottom. Reached it. Major resistance. So I believe the Bitcoin top is in. I'm going to show you this potential 5-leg push lower, and it may end at 74,000, but it could end down 50 or 52% lower. Now look right here, your guiding light in times of confusion and doubt. The guiding light is not here. We've rallied up into a red ribbon. There's no guiding light here. And you have red ribbon here in August. You tried to get above it there briefly there in October, and you turned right back down below the ribbon, and now you're getting rejection at the ribbon. You tried to get back above it, and it's failed. And it failed just under 61.8 Fibonacci. And now the cloud, or the background, is starting to turn back to red again. It moved to neutral position trying to get back above it, but then now you're triggering another sell signal there with Powell there on the Wednesday session. So again, not good. We're probably coming back to test the low over here at 74,000. Maybe take it out. That's a 42% drop. If we go 50% like we did the last bear market, you're going down to 60 or 63,000 there. Got the topping signals back at the top. I shared all these different topping signals with you. Here, we've tried to turn green, and now the signals here are turning back to bearish. You see the background's turning back to bearish, and the little line is turning back to bearish there. From blue to red, and the bars turning back to red. Look at the Bollinger Bands. The Bollinger Bands have tightened up, okay? And that's telling us something's about to happen. Big move up or down. You had the Bollinger Bands tighten up here, and you had the big move down. You had the Bollinger Bands tighten up down at the bottom. You had the big move up. Sometimes the bands tighten and you begin to move up, and then you move in the other direction, and then you go in the other direction again. So again, if we do try to rally to the 61.8 Fibonacci, it's likely going to be followed by a bigger drop. I'm just telling you, we're getting we're at the broken trend line. You're still at the ribbon. Broken trend line there from April low, the April low. Intraday cloud tried to flip back to bullish here. Tried, and it couldn't remain that way. We sold off, and it's now turned down. Now the oscillator's moving into negative territory, and good chance that we peaked just under the 61.8 Fibonacci with breaking the lower boundary of the bear flag and some of these other signals. I don't want to rule out that we don't reach a 61.8 Fibonacci, but more likely we have, but we need to see more signals turn bearish like the signal here and then remain that way. The sell-off with Powell, I've seen signals either turn bearish just before it or with it, and here we saw it with it. The Powell sell-off today, and a couple of them are still hanging in there though. Now here we haven't flipped bearish yet, but I'm getting the warning signs that we very well could. The bars have flipped back to neutral. They had turned from bearish to bullish, and now they're back to neutral. So again, some signals have not yet turned. Here, signal still bullish here at this point. Right here, the signal never turned back to bullish. It didn't buy into the rally. Now I've got some signals that are still bullish and other signals that are bearish. Some have remained bearish. I told you about my signal here. Never bought into that rally, warning that, hey, something was wrong. And bars remained red through the rally into the October high. Again, back testing, I should say, the broken trend line from April. And again, turning off of that. So again, we're probably going to go eventually and try to take out this low here, 103,000. I told you I think we're in a Wyckoff distribution pattern here. And again, it's not perfect, but again, coming up these two highs over here, like over here and over here, and then you stalled right there. And that's exactly what we did. This is likely a counter trend that is probably done. If it's not done, then watch the golden pocket if we could try to get a bigger rebound. But right now you're turning down with topping tails off of just under the 61.8 Fibonacci. Now right here, momentum has turned back to bearish, but the swing trend is still hanging in there. So again, you still might try to reach the golden pocket. Great Scott, did you hear what I said? You still might try. Now we had the bottoming signal confirming the bullish divergence on the 4-hour chart. No topping signal here. You don't have to get one. We didn't get one over here, and then we dumped down to a new low after the counter trend. So again, sometimes they show up, sometimes they don't. Nailed the top. I warned about that before the flash crash. Told you that was one of the reasons why I thought we were getting a major top, as we're turning off of resistance and seeing signals turn bearish. Now we have that in the weekly time frame. And signals warning, we're either getting a correction here, or we're reversing and we're starting a bear market like we did back over here. So again, with this downtrend, got the warning sign up here, risk of a correction or a reversal, complete reversal. Don't forget, we turned up major resistance in the weekly time frame off of the 2017 trend line. For linear scaling, take out the green line, the 50-week moving average, you're going to confirm a bear market if you take it out and then close below it and then get confirmation the following week. Turned out the 2021 trend lines right here, pointing these highs, pointing to the next high, which again, you've likely topped. You're turning off of these levels. You end up losing the 50-week, you end up losing the trend line. Bitcoin is going to confirm a bear market. Bitcoin is toast. I've been showing you different weekly charts that I have on Bitcoin, and here again, we're seeing the turn a couple weeks ago. We're at the top on indicators, and again, this is telling us we're either getting a bigger correction or we're going to go confirm a bear market by dropping below the 50-week moving average and closing below it and then confirming it. So the divergence on the awesome oscillator with the previous peak over here and the August peak. Now, some signals have started to turn back to bearish in the daily time frame. Others are not there yet. Here, I don't have a bearish signal. Bars are still blue. But if we start taking out the cloud here, you're going to revert right back to bearish and likely come back and take out 103,000. This is Bitcoin's daily chart. And again, signals have turned back to bullish. I told you if that happened, we can get a bigger counter trend. We still might try to get an even bigger counter trend. The wave 2 isn't done. Remember, Bitcoin has sold off 18%, so you might still get a larger Fibonacci retracement. But because we broke down from the lower boundary of the bear flag, then you got a shot that we've turned off the 50-day moving average and we've turned off of the just under that 61.8 Fibonacci. We sell off tomorrow, or as we now start the new session for Thursday, flip more signals back to bearish. Here, there's going to be no December rate cut and start your crash move. We're getting a red bar on the awesome oscillator and after hour, or as we start the new session, I should say here, watching. Do we flip the cloud back to red? I'll be watching. Again, I'll just show you some of my indicators. Again, we predicted a bounce. Got it. I told you a feeble bounce went to the orange line, a larger bounce to the purple line. We got the larger one, and we back tested the trend line from the April low. If we fall lower and take out this low here, then again, you want to be watching horizontal support over here, and you want to be watching the pink line again, lose 98,000. You hold below these lines and start taking out this one, you're likely headed back towards 74,000. Still a shot we try to reach the 61.8 Fibonacci, but again, the odds are slim. The bars are turning back to red here after being blue, and you're turning off the purple line, breaking the bear flag. I get a topping signal here. I don't have to get one. I started to get one here and it went away, but you don't always get one. You can get one over here for this counter trend either. So again, sometimes they show up, sometimes they don't. I got one here on Tuesday right here. This one did a good job of marking the bottom. And again, some of my signals turned right back to bearish right there. Like here on Tuesday, other signals turned bearish today. Some signals are still hanging in there. So again, you got to get a bigger sell-off. It happens, you've got a lower high and a lower low taking out this level here. But another signal that marked the top over here, that marked the July peak over here, and look, the bars turned bearish, the bars turned bearish, validating it. Now the bars are turning bearish. Nice signals, called the bottom. We're coming back and testing that 200 period moving average. Bottoming signal here, told you about that at the time. Topping signal over here before the flash crash happened. I was laughed at and mocked for calling that as a top. Signals have turned back to bearish right here. Others are not there yet. We try to bounce off the 200. You got a shot at still reaching the golden pocket, but again, the odds are becoming less likely that that's going to happen. But we need to close below the 200 period if we're going to come down and try to take out 103,000 and then test Bitcoin's average price. You lose Bitcoin's average price, you confirm a push below it, can't get back above it, you've got your bear market. Again, some signals turned back to bearish yesterday. Others turned back to bearish today with the Wednesday session with Powell. A couple of them are not there yet.